We'll call to order the Lincoln City Council regular meeting. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. It is 6 p.m. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Auditor, please get the roll call, please.
Councilman Bjornstein?
Here.
Councilwoman Davis?
Here.
Councilwoman Artadia?
Here.
Councilman Shoemaker?
Here.
And Mayor Berlin?
Here. On the agenda, our first action would be approval of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda, the 5:22 and 25 minutes.
So that's on the consent agenda.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I totally jumped ahead, didn't I? Make a, rescind that motion. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda approval.
We have a first by Councilwoman Davis, a second by Councilman Bjornstead. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And so moved. Next, we have the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, the 5:22, 25 minutes.
First by Councilwoman Davis. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. Now we will call for public comment. Second call for public comment. The third and final. Seeing none, we'll carry on with number 7, old business. Scott Banger.
F is fine.
Okay. From Bavarian Insurance.
Hey.
Thank you.
I mean, you know what that was going.
Gardens, right?
All right, good evening, and thanks for making some time. Connie and I have been working on a number of things since we've kind of come into place here as the insurance agent for the city of Lincoln. And last time I was here, we talked about some proposals and some ideas, and now we've got the ability to put some of those into action if you so choose. The biggest thing we want to talk about today is the city's upcoming property renewal, which will take place on 7/1 here. Bravera will become in place to be the acting agent effective 7/1 for that policy. The other policies that we've dealt with in the past, we're rocking and rolling, everything's been going great. But first of all, I've got a couple of attachments that we'll go through. I'm going to touch base on the property. Ahead of this renewal, first and foremost, I guess I want to give a little background. The North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund came up with a product a handful of years ago called the Blanket Statement of Values. Now, what that does is any buildings or personal property that qualify for this blanket statement of values gets removed from your schedule and put on this blanket. They're still listed individually, but what comes along with that is there's a 125% margin clause. That means that in the event that one of these buildings were destroyed, you actually have 125% of the or the limit. So $1 million building, again, with inflation and how things change, if it turns out that it's going to end up costing more than that $1 million, you actually have in that situation up to 1.25 million. There's no cost to be on that blanket. The only cost, if you would want to call it that, is that to qualify, you have to be adequately valued to be able to be eligible to be moved over. Okay, so that's the backing on that. The first attachment that you guys will see is a letter that was recently sent out. The city has 3 properties right now that are operating and on that blanket. They've not been updated or needed to be updated in a handful of years, and now is the time where NDRF is reaching out and saying, hey, these buildings are no longer going to qualify for the blanket effective 7/1 unless we bump those values up to where they need to be. Okay, so these three buildings that you see right here, the suggested RC limits, that means replacement costs, those are the values that they're requesting that those be increased to in order to maintain and stay on that blanket and qualify for that 125% margin clause. The cost associated with that is actually for those buildings, it's $445 standard. Okay, if you look at that next attachment that I have, kind of that spreadsheet, I ran this, and this includes those three buildings that we talked about, but I also included the other three buildings that we have on the schedule right now that would also qualify if the city would want to increase those values as well. The key columns that I want to point out, if you look at each one of those corresponding structures, you have the fifth column over current BP limit. That is what those buildings are currently insured at. Two columns over, the suggested BP limit, of course, is what the valuation shows it should be insured today. And then as you go all the way over to the right, it's going to show for each one of those buildings what that cost would take to get that to the adequate value to be eligible for that limit. Does that make sense? Okay. So, again, I wanted to just provide that. That's for the buildings that we have right now. In addition to that, I've connected with Terry in the Public Works Department. And yes, this is great. We want to make sure that what we have right now, we're keeping up with what the cost should be. But I also wanted to take the time we're going to find some time to go through town. I want to make sure that we're not missing anything, because that can happen too. And not just what we have in the buildings, but other items, outdoor property, fencing, signs, things of those nature. So making sure that we feel that we're confident we have everything. So that's our plans in the coming weeks ahead of the 7-1 event. So that's the property stuff. Moving on, the auto deductibles. That's one that we talked about when I kind of proposed to you guys a few months ago. I wanted to show that there was an option available for the city to potentially save some dollars. The city's current deductible structure is set at $100 for a comp claim, $250 for a collision claim. That's incredibly low for what we see all over the place now, which is great. But there's an alternative, and in this case, if the city would like to increase those deductible amounts from 100 and 250 up to still what I believe is a very reasonable 500 and 500, the city is going to have an annual savings of just under $1,500 a year. So unless the city is experiencing with their vehicles 3 to 4 to 5 claims a year, just for dollars and cents, I think it's a really good move or an opportunity to save some bucks. So just now, we talked about that concept previously. These are more firm figures, just so you guys can see that that's what it would look like for the city. Okay. The next one is the inland marine. We talked about that one a while back as well. Inland marine is your mobile equipment. Okay, it's not vehicles. It could be like things that aren't necessarily stationary. It could be pieces of heavy equipment. Could be attachments or plows or things like that that are used by vehicles during some points of the year, and other times they might be stationed somewhere. You guys have a couple $1 million worth of equipment. And right now, the way that that's set up is it's on a schedule. So that means that each individual item has to be listed with their serial number, their VIN number, whatever it is. If it's not on that schedule, it is not covered. So if there was ever a time when one of our departments failed, or we forgot to say, oh shoot, we swapped this one out for that one. If it doesn't get updated, there's no coverage for it. An alternative is this blanket option, different blanket than what we talked about on the property side. Instead, what we're doing here is we're taking that whole schedule and we're putting it into 4 subdivisions, and we're putting limits, blanket limits for each one of those subdivisions. As long as we have, again, an adequate value there, the schedule is gone. So if that situation comes where, oh my gosh, we forgot, to submit that change order for that $1,200, that $2,500, that $35,000 piece of equipment, as long as you have adequate limits in those places, that schedule is gone. That coverage is there all day long. It eliminates those cracks. It also provides replacement costs in some situations instead of a depreciated value. It's an absolute no-brainer. So then the question is, okay, well, what's the cost associated with that? In this case, as you can see, your current premium is $2,529. To go to this blanket option, it's actually cheaper. And I know that doesn't make sense, but it's when you run that, that's the dollars that came back. There is no downside to this. There's nothing that's being sacrificed. You're just filling in the gaps, and again, you're beefing up your coverage in some places. Okay. The next item is garage keepers. That's something that Tanya brought to my attention here over the last month or so. And that really came into play, if I understand right, the police department maybe came into possession temporarily of like a vehicle, maybe an impounded vehicle or something like that. The question is, well, what happens if we have care, custody, and control of something like that? Something happens to it. It's vandalized, stolen, damaged, crashed into. Well, that's where this garage keepers coverage comes into play. If the city is interested in it, it allows for coverage that the city has for themselves in the event that the property that they have in their care, custody, and control is damaged. I quoted $50,000 coverage for both common and collision coverage. That total which you see there, and it's a complete optional coverage. You can have a lower limit, you can have a higher limit, but just to give you an idea of what that would be, is $470 a year. And again, that might be a complete one-off thing that the city never runs into. Might be something that we can add on the fly if we need to, but I just wanted to address and let you know that that's an option. The last one has to do with bonding. We've got a couple of different things that Tanya and I have been looking at together. Making sure that we have notary bonds in place. We've got the North Dakota bonding fund. So we've been working through those together to just make sure that we either have them in place, and if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, we've got the ability to help out with those things. So I know that's kind of a quick hitter, but any questions from anybody on any of the topics?
The initial topic of the property is, highlighted number $860, that's for your engineering fees.
Yes. Yep.
And for the blanket coverage and then the marine, what are the four categories? I know you mentioned a couple months ago that they were.
Yeah. So one, typically you're going to have like audio and computer equipment. I believe is coverage A. You're going to have what's called like contractors equipment. That's going to be coverage B, which is going to be a lot of like, if you have a skid steer, if you have different attachments, mowers, things like that. That's all going to fall into that. That's usually a bulk thing. You also have emergency services. So again, that would be one where, especially with the police department, you can see firearms on there. You'll see if there's a fire department, you'll see turnout gear, things that pertain specifically to typically a fire department, sheriff's department, police department. They're rated differently. And then lastly, there's a category that's kind of a catch-all almost. So those are the types of items. And so I've already went through your current schedule, and that's how I got this quote, is looking at how they're categorized now and just allocating them in the appropriate buckets. So that part is already done. And that's what provides what we have here from the quote standpoint.
For the property, do we add in that park board garage that's over off of Dolan? If I'm not, that's your parks, so that would belong back to the city. Okay. I wasn't sure. I don't have any questions. I like the layout and the information that you gave us. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just yeah, and however you guys as far as decisions and stuff like that, if that just wants to be conveyed to Tanya or whatever, but and we'll put that in place, and then I'll get together with Sherry and that voice. But thank you.
Tanya, do you have anything to add?
No, I would look at, we have till the 1st of July. I would need to know, probably by next council to get it up and running by the July 1st.
It can be done anytime. I just would suggest doing it prior, so there's never
Nevertheless.
Yep.
So is council comfortable with giving the auditor the authority to go ahead and renew this contract? Or sign, I guess it would be renewed, but
I'm comfortable.
With the proposed changes, we'd be $200 or something, roughly less than cleanings. And so I'm comfortable with changes. And I agree with the deductibles on the on this.
oh, okay. So do we need a motion on that? Or it's just, okay. So if we have a first,
Yeah, I'll
On
make a
that?
motion to let the auditor handle the insurance situation.
Okay, we have a first by Councilwoman Artavia. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if we could get the roll call, please.
Harrison,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Artavia. Yes. And Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott.
Number 8 under old business, we have procurement and disposition, and that would be with Councilman Hempstead.
I think we're at the first reading, made for changes to section or to first 1-07, which are the procedures for procurement. And I think that we now have an amended amendments that are, so we have requested that amounts that are equal or exceed $15,000 are subject to the bidding requirements and exceptions. Amounts of under 7,500 are not subject to bidding requirements. City is entrusting the division directors to make those purchases. And purchases that are less than $15,000 but are equal or more than 7,500 they have to be approved by the portfolio holder, with the portfolio holder disclosing at the next council meeting that they had provided the approvals. And then similarly with the disposition of property, if it's less than $3,000, be made a open market. And if it is between 3 but less than 5,000, it can be done with approval, and then exceeding 5,000 through the same process of the day. And Madam Mayor, you have provided with maybe some additional changes for professional services, and I take from that. I don't think there's a problem with adding an exception for professional services. But we go from the overview that to make sure that there's nothing in the state statute that would require. So we'll look at that and confer with you when it's appropriate. And then between the first reading and second, that change and slow things down. So what would be in order tonight would be for the council, if so inclined to have somebody approve the first reading.
Okay, so wishes of council.
I'll make a motion to approve the procurement and disposition first reading.
I'll second.
We have the first by Councilwoman Davis, second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we could get the roll call, please.
Councilman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis,
Yes.
Councilwoman Artavia. Yes. And Councilman Schmidt.
Yes.
And number 9, Landis Shoemaker, or Councilman Shoemaker for the AI data storage, cryptocurrency, electronic centers discussion.
So that's exactly what I wanted to do, is begin a discussion on data centers, maybe potential data centers that whatever be proposed to enter into the city of Lincoln. And you'll have a packet right there in front of you with data centers that have been put in place, planned to put in place in North Dakota. And then also some considerations or concerns about these data centers, and mainly in respect to the strains that they put on the electrical grid. And so the big interest that these data centers have with North Dakota, one are energy resources, and the two are full climate to keep the computers to the range. However, natural resources are not right now placeable, not renewable. So once these data centers are constructed and do put a strain on the grid, even if they're using natural resources, to make their own energy that will eventually stop, and then we will be left with a strained power grid. And I also attached some letters from Capital Electric with some recent rate increases we've had with on-peak demand, grid capacity charges, just to show you that if we're really looking out for the long-term welfare and benefit of the citizens of Lincoln community, you just need to think 100 a year, and not just 50 or what could make a quick dollar. I just wanted to bring some information to you to hand read it and see what your opinions are for the next meeting. Start the discussion.
Any other discussion?
Thank you for the information, really appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing that I thought was really interesting, I had attended one of the commission meetings, early commission meetings, within the last month, maybe 6 weeks, and they had talked about one of the biggest concerns that they have is that decommissioning. You know, they could pick up and walk out the door, and then we're stuck with, or whomever would be stuck, taking care of removing some of that information. And so after a meeting, at the last meeting, that gentleman, Tim, I apologize, I don't remember his last name.
Leopard.
What's that? Leopard. He attended, and then when I was at Apple Creek, their meeting went a little more in depth at the Apple Creek meeting as far as the specific issues that Ellendale and that has had. And I visited a little bit with someone from Apple Creek too, talking about some of the actions that we might be able to take. Just preparing. And one of the suggestions, and I do have one that I sent or gave to the auditor and the attorney, and this is just like what Councilman Gears, or I apologize, Shoemaker mentioned, taking it home and reading it and just becoming aware of it. One of the options that we have first in that packet is, and these are just samples and drafts that for us just to start conversations is all. To piggyback off of the councilman here, but the one thing that we can do is do a moratorium. And of course, we don't have any talk currently with anybody talking about coming to the city of Lincoln. We don't really have a whole lot of area for anybody to build anything. So the likelihood, who knows, but it's better to prepare than not. One of the ways we can combat this is to have a moratorium. There was that Tim had mentioned, they had put a 2-year moratorium so they could develop procedures or ordinances to come in line. One of the really scary things is that there was a bill presented, Senate Bill 2208, I believe, where the municipalities could have prairie dog funds taken away from them if they stood in line or stood against these data centers and other energy companies coming into their cities. Thankfully, that was failed and straight away, but that just shows where some of this intent could come. Will it affect us? I don't know. Better prepared than not. So anyways, there's the moratorium, and then there's also a draft ordinance creating a new zoning district, and that would be specific to the data center, cryptocurrency mining facilities. And then the third thing that you have in there is just definitions, updating the definitions in the zoning ordinances, section 9, that would just include some of the terms that would be specific to this use. So that's there just for your general reading, and I'll leave it up to council as far as if we go further on this at a later date. So Questions, thoughts? All right, next we have Lincoln wastewater update. I will be asking for Beretta to come up and discuss some of the changes that are going on, but I did want council to know that I had sent an email to the city. We're quite in front of me. And this was to the city of Bismarck, just because they had sent a reminder that we hadn't signed any contracts for or not contracts necessarily, agreements for some of this stuff going on easement wise and whatnot. So I sent an email to them. The city of Lincoln is currently in the process of evaluating long-term options for wastewater treatment to determine which solution will best or be most beneficial for our community in the years ahead. At this time, the city council is carefully reviewing all viable alternatives to ensure we make a well-informed and sustainable decision. Once council has reached a decision regarding the direction we will pursue, we intend to reach out to the city of Bismarck to discuss potential next steps and any opportunities for collaboration. So that is just to give them where we stand at this point. So just wanted to let you know and make you aware of that. Loretta.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have anything official prepared. We went through everything last meeting. Talked about the rate study and have been moving forward with trying to get data and what that looks like. So I think that's where we're at as far as getting information to move forward. And I don't know if any of you have additional questions that I can help with, or Mayor Gillen, if you had anything specifically that you wanted me to address regarding this, I sure could do that.
I think at this point, the rate study, we had previously had a rate study done. And through last summer, but the individual that provided the summary
Correct.
to you. Now, there's also the information that he gathered and compiled. He's not wanting to share that with us. Only the summary. So, and I had asked for a CC of that even, but I don't know, are we able to encourage him firmly to obtain that information? Or open records, because it is City of Lincoln.
So that's something that
information.
we'll have to, Madam Mayor, that's something we'll have to overview, but, I think the starting point would be to look at whatever contractor agreement was in place. Just not something I've reviewed yet, so.
Right, and I was just
So,
bringing this up.
yeah,
for
so-
us.
I mean, I think the analysis would be to start with what does the contract say? As far as the data, and then go from there, but. It seems unusual to me that there would be data that we would have access to, but again, we'll start with the agreement and probably from there, that's what I would suggest.
And I think the information was just, it would be quicker if you were able to utilize that information rather than recreating.
So that was my understanding, that if this individual could take our information and include it and run with it, that would probably be the fastest way to get where we want to be with the rate study. It doesn't sound like that's an option, or they're not interested in doing that. So then the ask was, well, can we get this data so that we can combine it with our information to move forward with the rate study? It sounds like we're kind of at a standstill with getting that information. So I have reached out to Colin to find out what exactly we would need to move forward if we don't get that information. So I'll have that to share with you. At the same time that we're looking to see what we can do to get that information from that individual, so. Just keep moving forward,
If
that's,
somebody from the city can send to me whatever the written agreement or if we have our contractual documents on that. You know, start overviewing that and then just getting a sense of what our options are.
And in the interim, is there anything that the city can provide to keep the ball rolling? Because my understanding is this is going to be a month process or.
yeah, I already sent that information over to Colin and Matt right after you and I talked, so hopefully that yet this evening or first thing tomorrow, we'll have an answer as to what specifically they need. If the case is that we need to take and, you know, kind of start from scratch, right? So what does that look like? And I will share the information then with you on what we need to do and what that next step is. So we don't want to be sitting if we have to wait and wait and work our way through to get that information. It might be something that we can just dig up what we need and move forward.
Any questions?
I just want you to know that that rates to be, was those. Okay, it was just the water,
Just the water rates. Okay,
just so you.
that's good to me to know because I did not know that. Thank you for that. Okay, anything else I can help with? Questions this evening?
Not for now, but thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. One of the things that I wanted to ask our council. Currently, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. And especially when we're navigating through the uncertainty, which way are we gonna go with all of this? In the summer, with so much going on with vacation, different activities, now with the information that might need to be gathered and worked through all of this. I was hoping to have a 5-day-a-week full days in the office, not necessarily taking away from the 4-day weeks, but maybe Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday, just so if things like this were to be needed, or we have people needing permits or having questions like that, especially in the summertime, and there's so much going on, if you'd be open to entertaining that, your thoughts on it?
Can you just clarify what specifically it is that you're looking for?
Just so somebody is available to provide the information to either the residents of the city when they come in and have questions, or to compile data, forward it on, just to have somebody in the office all day, every day.
Okay.
A normal worker. And if it's just for the summertime or until this project gets going all the way, regardless of which side.
So you're talking specifically about wastewater and stuff or.
Just to see what. If somebody comes in and takes off work at 3 o'clock on a Friday to get things done, they realize they need a permit, where are they gonna go get it? And yes, we all have to plan ahead, but that doesn't mean it's always there. If we have something come up on a Thursday after our meeting and we need to have this information, do we wait 3, 4, 5 days to get that information because of the weekend or holiday? Or do we have somebody working the entire day Friday that can get that information out? That's my concern question.
Could we do like an on-call Friday to where like somebody could be on call from like 8 to 12?
Who's gonna answer this?
We're here on Fridays, right? So you're talking to 5.
Fridays are 7:30 to noon.
It's at the.
Yeah,
So
then
it'd still
if
be a-
somebody is
here for the week, but instead of having everybody. Or having one person from 7:30 to noon, it would be one person the entire day, or. Splitting it up or something, just so we have the office manned.
Could we do like an emergency email? To where then somebody can come in and answer that?
But how would
An
that
option,
work
I
if
think
somebody
so.
wanted to come into the office afternoon Friday? Somebody needed to come in to do business.
Honestly. Yeah, I'm just trying to throw ideas out there.
But that is kind of what you're getting at, is that, am I understanding? correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm all for it, just one schedule, just told my employee that everybody works, like it's a job this time. It might take one, my situation here, the need of during the day is somebody to come after standard hours.
Right, and my understanding is that. You know, it changed. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how long it's been. On Fridays.
Do we have any kind of record of incoming calls from noon to 5 on Fridays?
Yeah, the office has collected some data on that from when we were half days. To see how many calls are coming in.
That 8 to noon, I haven't received.
Or-
I think that's all you could afford to have. So you should, if we feel that it was cover your chance on time.
Okay, not from the noon to 5. There's. 8 to
I
noon,
thought somebody was already in the office
right,
or something.
but there's not gonna be from noon to 5, because nobody's here.
Yes, so I'm wondering,
Unless I'm misunderstanding.
I'm wondering if there's record of calls coming into the office from noon to 5. Right. So if
So
we
like
determine
voice calls
if
or-
somebody needs to.
No, they- What had been tracked was 8.
From the time we on Friday.
From 7:30 instead of 8. But no, not in the
Do we
afternoon.
have voicemail that collects, right? An answer machine, I mean, that collects voicemails?
Yeah, but
How far back does that go? We don't know.
it's not gonna go back.
Right, but how far does that, do we know?
Do you remember what they said?
If you're gonna come to the. Thank you. For those of you that don't know, this is Ashley. She's front desk.
Hello. So, that communications, I actually recently helped out with the municipal court, reaching out to them to obtain some records, so why don't I contact them? See what we can get, how far back it goes for most times, cause I'm not sure that the voicemail records, if they're deleted, I don't power to it.
Okay,
Sound good?
thank
And
you.
then we should get that data for you guys.
Thank you.
So Councilmember Deacon, were you basically saying like that people could reach out via email in those hours that are not currently open on Fridays? Is that what you're saying? Like if somebody would come to the office or call, that there would be an email that they could?
Right, which I know we already have, city emails already, which they can do as well, but I was just trying to think maybe that there could have been a shortcut. Or say a faster way, but
Maybe a telephone number if the idea of an on-call situation comes up in discussion, or if maybe there should be more information given. You know, like a specific number or something posted at the door, just.
You're saying an adjustable extended, not increase in hours.
Correct.
So-
So it could be a Monday through Thursday, a Tuesday through Friday. It could do, you know, just so someone's in the office, because if we've had years of the office not being open, they may not know that they can now take the opportunity to, and in the last summer, there was a lot of frustration. And the reason I'm going with this, it'll come up a little bit later, one of the reasons is, we're gonna have a lot of activity coming on because of the beautification process. We've got landscaping and a lot of people that are gonna be aware that, hey, from now on, we're not playing as far as following our ordinances. You need to have a permit if you're gonna come and do this. You're gonna have to come in and get the guidelines. And if nobody's there, you know, and some people do their work during the week. A lot of people do it on the weekends. They make it in need to come in. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to be a situation. But I think there needs to be somebody here that can answer the questions. And if they're on call, we're still gonna have to pay them for that. They're still gonna have to be staying in town. So whichever way, I just wanna. When there are so many moving parts within the city right now. We don't know for sure if there's going to be a demand. But without having that opportunity for somebody to be getting information to the engineer for this project or the wastewater. Or somebody coming in and finding out what they can or cannot do as far as yards. That is my concern.
I think having an adjustable work schedule is the most cost effective. Efficiently. Versus, because on calls, I look myself in that personal position. It's hard to schedule your personal life outside.
And you might as well be here at work.
And we live in our own all the time. It's not a regular, already established schedule, so. we Just adjust the people's schedules. If they're most cost effective.
Speak. I just, okay, so when it comes to Fridays, there's 3 of us in the office, so we rotate those. If we work full days, there'll have to be 2 people in the office because by law you have to keep, I'm just throwing this out there, so. There'll have to be 2 people in the office for full days, there's only 3 of us. I just.
Can I ask, well, maybe nobody here at this table, the office had 2 people previously, 3. With the auditor and 2 other employees. And they were full days. 5 days, I don't know how they did that. You know, and it might come to a point where. You close the doors from noon to 1, or from 11:30 to 2, or. Is that be a longer lunch hour, but I think closing the doors for that certain amount of time to allow for those breaks. Would be. A way to still work within that time frame. So. Thoughts? Looking about.
Have some conversations with office personnel, see if they're to check things. Work class. So, see.
If it's schedule stuff,
Yeah,
well, and yes, but also. To keep in mind that our responsibility is to the citizens too, so, and if they don't see a need for it. then. So maybe bring it back next meeting.
Sure, sounds good.
All right. So, next, number 11, we have the Ridge Edition zoning change from final plat. Final plat, public hearing. So did you have anything before we go into this meeting?
Mayor, council members, I can either go through kind of staff report or the plat first, or if you prefer to hold the public hearing first, it's your choice.
I have an opinion, I would prefer the report first.
Oregon. I will proceed. So the staff report for final plat and zoning change for Ridge Edition. This is for city council for final plat consideration and final consideration for zone change. The owner, developer, Ridge Developers LLC, Applebee's LLP, project contact is and base with Flower Engineering. Location is northeast Lincoln, west of 80th Street, between 22nd Avenue and 28th Avenue. The request is a 19 lot plat to provide development opportunity for rural residential lots. Currently, it is zoned as agricultural, and proposed zoning is for RR2 rural residential. The developers requesting approval of the final plat for Ridge Addition. The subdivision is located within the city of Lincoln perfect boundary. The developers also requesting approval of the zone change from agricultural to rural residential, or RR2 rural residential. And a public hearing on the final plat and zone change was called for at May 8th, 2025 council meeting. The public hearing is scheduled for this council meeting. Zone land use and zoning. Agricultural to exist to the south and west. RR5 rural residential to the north and east. Conformance with the comprehensive plan, zoning and land use generally conform to the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Transportation and access. Access for the subdivision will be through Maple Lane, Bruce Lane, and eventually 22nd Avenue and 80th Street. As adjacent areas develop, access on 22nd Avenue will occur. The connection of 22nd Avenue from Final Drive to Maple Lane will be challenging with some of the terrain and while the overhead power line support steel structure being at the planned right of way. Utilities and services. The property will be served by South Central Regional Water in accordance with the agreement with the city of Lincoln for potable water. Sanitary sewer will be septic tanks and drain fields for the 1 acre plus size lots. Stormwater management plan. A full stormwater management plan has been submitted and is acceptable for this plat. Parks and open spaces. Proposed subdivision has been presented to the park district. The applicant is required to meet the ordinance requirements for this development. Park space will be provided as part of Ridge Second Edition. Annexation property is currently annexed into the city of Lincoln. Findings of fact, zoning zone change application has been submitted to change the zoning of parts of the property from agricultural to RR2 rural residential. Stormwater management plan has been submitted. We have reviewed the stormwater management plan and have found it to be acceptable. Parks and open spaces, this plat is for residential development and therefore city ordinance 9-08-05 subsection 5 does apply as park spaces being provided as part of Bridge Second Edition. Final plat. Draft of final plat has been submitted for the intents and desires of the developer. Final plat checklist was submitted. All technical requirements for the final plat have been met. The proposed subdivision plat includes sufficient easements and rights of way to provide for orderly development and services beyond the boundaries of the subdivision. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the general intent and purposes of the zoning ordinance. A master plan for future development has been submitted and appears to be an acceptable concept. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the master plan and other adopted plans, policies, and accepted plan practice. Proposed subdivision will not adversely affect public health, safety, and general welfare. This parcel is already annexed into the city of Lincoln, so annexation is not needed. One thing to add to this is kind of part of the engineering report, which is later, but we did have a meeting with Burley County and Upstate Township to discuss 22nd Avenue and 80th Streets. And so it appears that everyone is in agreement or on board with relocating 80th to follow up along which would be future Spruce Place. And I can kind of point this out on the map over here. Better, I guess. Thank you. So, after this first, so 80th Street comes up from Lincoln Road. Along here, stops at this point, and then our ridge addition is in this one. So what everyone's agreeing to at this point is bring this road up 30th and Cottingham up to here at cul-de-sac. Yeah, so what we're doing is eliminate the need for 80th to continue through this area, which has approximately 50 feet or your take of elevation change, almost impossible to build a road through them. So, all the interested entities have met, talked on it, and aside from having formal approval on it, everyone's feels that this is the best route to so bringing 80th up to here, we would eliminate 22nd, running it out as well. And this would be the key intersection. This would become more like a subdivision type road, residential road versus a section line road, which both would not promote as much traffic through this residential area. So that has a little bit of impact on the current plat. Because right now with the plat they have to the right of the plat in here for 80th and 22nd. So what we would have them do, and I feel it's very simple on this style of plat. You just bump their property line for this lot up to the section line, eliminate 22nd, and then extend the property line on the back of these lots to the section line as well. This portion of 80, but
Greg, if I may,
yes.
I'm curious, hadn't seen before about Maple Lane and Spruce Lane on this first one. Is that still the plan with Maple and Spruce Lane and in accordance with the meeting that you're referring with the Apple Creek Township as well? Are they in agreement with this?
They are. Everyone's in agreement on Apple Creek, really kind of needed, the developer. So one of the questions is whether or not this section of 80th here, as it would be down to this here, is all 80th Street, or if we discontinue the Spruce Place. And it might be better than just continue with the Spruce Place to not designate, well, this is 80th all the way from Lincoln, pushing all the way through. But it's something where I think this kind of go back to me, Paul, if they have a preference. And look at it. So if it's kind of a minor thing, but those are kind of the three changes to the plat. I think at this point they're probably it's fine to move forward with if council's all right with it to approve and continue on distance upwards or. Does anyone have any questions on what's happening there?
Can you point out, because 80th right now goes all the way up and we're gonna go over, so there's that little spot where 80th to the north is gonna veer off to 22nd. So there will be a spot there. You had pointed it out before, right there.
Yeah.
That's still gonna go access up to 80th, but it won't connect on 22nd or on, yeah, yes.
Correct. So currently Spruce Place is just a cul-de-sac. And there's no right way platted through this existing plant. So that will not make a connection back to 80th. So 80th will not continue as a through street all the way through. It'll be the T intersection of 22nd and bring people back out on 1 second, so the desire, it'll minimize that traffic that's in this.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that Apple Creek in conjunction with Early County and City of Lincoln have come to what sounds like some agreements on some of these streets.
Yes, and it will definitely appears to be the best alternative, and everyone seems to be on board. I'm happy with that, including developer wasn't on when I was, well, we had the last meeting, but he was sick. So that's why the conversation had been taking place without him there, but understand that it went well. Great. That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on Bridge Edition? That, and I should say in your packets, the master plan that was provided by Lowry Engineering shows this updated route, so. Towards the back.
And that would be here. This is small.
Yeah, services.
Well, that is
That engagement, so. Here it is.
oh, right here.
Yes, so 80. Okay.
Perfect. The top like under the eight is.
I noticed that before and I was like, what's
going up? Oh, thank you for all your getting all this put together.
The owner's representative is here as well, if there's
Oh.
any questions
Okay,
or
perfect.
if you have anything else to add.
No, I don't.
All right.
Great. So with that, staff recommendations, so based on the above findings, staff recommends approval of the final plat for Ridge Edition. Based on the above findings, staff recommends approval of the zone change from A agriculture to RR2 rural residential. And if you could do one motion for each.
So do we do the public hearing before we do
No, sorry.
Sorry.
Gotta have my sign.
So at this time, we will entertain a motion to open up in a public meeting or public comment period.
I'll make a motion to open up a public hearing for the Ridge Edition zoning change final plat.
We have the first,
I'll send.
a second by Councilwoman Artadia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. First call for comment to the public hearing. Second. And third and final, seeing none. Motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
First by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Bjornstead. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We are now ready to entertain a motion on the approval for final plat for Ridge Edition.
I'll make a motion to approve Ridge Edition zoning change final plat.
First by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Bjornstead. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if we could get a roll call, please.
Councilman Shoemaker,
Yes.
Councilwoman Artadia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis,
Yes.
and Councilman Bernstein.
Yes.
All right, and then second, what are your wishes for approval of the zoning change from A agricultural to RR2 rural residential?
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change from agricultural to rural residential.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first by Councilman Bjornsted, second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed?
The first edition?
This is for the first,
The first.
or for bridge edition.
Bridge edition.
British edition.
Okay, if we could get a roll call, please.
Councilman Shoemaker,
No.
Councilwoman Ortega,
Yes.
Davis,
yes,
and Beast.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll carry on to number 12, Ridge edition, or Ridge second edition, zoning change and final plat, public hearing.
Mayor and council members, staff report for Bridge second edition. A lot of similar items with the first edition. I'll try to skip over a few things, but catch the highlights. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask or if you want some additional information. Ridge second edition. This is for city council final plat consideration and consideration for zoning change. This is also located in northeast Lincoln, east of Dolan Drive. It's a 2-lot plat, provide a park lot as required for the development of Ridge edition and future editions. The existing zoning is agricultural, and the proposed zoning is public recreation. The developer has requested approval of the final plat for Ridge second edition. The subdivision is located within the city of Lincoln corporate boundary. The developer also is requesting approval of zoning change from agricultural to RR2. Sorry, from agricultural to P public. Sorry, I have that. Public hearing on the final plat and zone change was called for at the May 8th, 2025 council meeting. The public hearing is scheduled for this meeting. I'll jump to the findings of fact as it covers everything kind of in the preliminary information. So zoning change application has been submitted to change the zoning of parts of the property from A agricultural to P public. Stormwater management plan has been submitted. We have reviewed the stormwater management plan and have found it to be acceptable. This plan is for residential development and therefore city ordinance 9-08-05 subsection 5 does apply. This plan is being provided as park space for Ridge edition. Final plat. A draft of the final plan has been submitted to show the intent and desires of the developer. Final plat checklist was submitted. All technical requirements for the final plat have been met. The proposed subdivision plat includes sufficient easements, rights of way, provide for orderly development and services beyond the boundaries of the subdivision. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the general intent purposes of the zoning ordinance. A master plan for future development has been submitted and appears to be an acceptable concept. The proposed subdivision is consistent with the master plan and other adopted plans, policies, and accepted planning practice. Proposed subdivision will not adversely affect public health, safety, and general welfare. And this parcel is already annexed into the city of Lincoln, and annexation is therefore not needed. Any questions or like we had explain more?
Seeing none, I guess at this point I would entertain a motion to open for public hearing.
I'll make a motion for a public hearing of Ridge second edition for zoning change and final plat.
We have the first by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Bjornsted. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? So moved. So we will have open comment period. Second call. Third and final call. Right, seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing for reach second edition, change and plat.
We have a first by Councilman Bjornstead,
I'll second.
second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? And so moved.
I'll make a motion to approve the Ridge Second Edition zoning change from agriculture to public.
Thank you. I had little stuff there, so
You do the plat first.
The plat.
You do one
the final plat for Ridge Edition.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
We have a first and second. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? So moved. If we could get a roll call, please.
Councilman Bjornstead,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis,
yes.
Councilwoman Artavia,
Yes.
and Councilman Shoemaker.
Yes.
Thank you. And do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Ridge second edition final plat.
We have first by Councilman Bjornstead,
Second.
second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? And we did a roll call, please.
Councilman Bjornstead,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis,
yes.
Councilwoman Artavia,
Yes.
and Councilman Shoemaker.
Yes.
Change of patience. Thank you, thank you. Hannah, did you have anything for us? No. No. So now, we have the auditor's bond. In your packet, you will see that, this is an annual bond, so there is a resolution for the bond for city auditor, where section 40-13-02 of the North Dakota Century Code provides for the city council to establish by resolution in June of each year in an amount at least equal to 25% of the average amount of money that's been subject to the auditor's control during the preceding fiscal year, or $250,000, whichever is least. And now there be it resolved, the city council of the city of Lincoln, North Dakota, that the bond for the Lincoln city auditor be set at $250,000 as recommended by North Dakota state auditors. And so we would need a motion.
I would make the motion to establish a resolution for the bond for the city auditor in the amount of $250,000.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Artavia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Bjornstead. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? And if we could get a roll call, please.
Councilman Bjornstead,
Yes.
Councilwoman Artavia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis,
yes.
and Councilman Shoemaker.
Yes.
Okay, next, the public comment policy. Is that in your,
Yeah.
Nothing on it,
I'll
no.
start on the agenda, but I can.
okay. That is. North Dakota Century Code is going to be changing to allow require public comment at each of the meetings. I have. Jeff, did I send that to you? Attorney Rothenberg?
I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the change, but I did not see.
Okay, and I think it goes into effect August first. If it's a bill that goes into effect.
Depends on the past. But I don't think it is.
I don't. Okay, well, you'll have that, and we already do that, but this just makes an ordinance or policy. That is it to be a resolution?
Madam Mayor, what I can tell you is I'm familiar with the legislature. The legislature added the public comment requirement, but I don't have specifics, but certainly you will get a copy of the legislation.
Yeah,
That's available. Figure out, you already have a public comment period here. It just makes it mandatory. So we'll figure out whether we need to have an ordinance on that or whether the state statute is sufficient.
and then that would be not specific to city council, but all of our boards and commission meetings, all public entity meetings, correct? So
You stumped me.
I apologize.
Okay, I will get something out to you on that, to get a copy of the legislation.
Our deputy auditor had brought that to my attention. I didn't realize that it had gone through with a passage, so that was really good information to get. Next, we have dumpster ordinance amendment 5-02-02 discussion. And that is in your packet. It is number 3. And that is because we're going through the landscaping and beautification and all the things around town. This is a good time to bring this in. There is an ordinance for under the dirt, filth, etc., and streets and properties kind of filled in here. I'll just read it. It shall be unlawful and a violation of this code for any person or entity to place, maintain, or use commercial grade dumpsters on any property within the city limits without an active and ongoing use of such dumpsters. Commercial grade dumpsters shall not remain on any property for a period exceeding 30 consecutive days unless a valid permit has been obtained from the city. This permit application shall include the intended duration and purpose of the dumpster use. Failure to actively use the dumpster or to obtain the required permit shall constitute a violation of this code and may result in removal of the dumpster. The cost of disposal of the property shall be billed to the property. And if payments not made within those 30 days, then these costs shall be charged to special assess of that property. And last summer, there was discussion because of a storage container that had been put in the driveway and had been there for an extended period of time. So that's kind of how this comes from. Also the streets too. I think it was there one else in the street?
Correct, yes. With the wording on here, resulted removal of the dumpster. Who takes partake in that?
I would assume that that would be an organization like waste management or whatnot. Now they already deliver. I'm just gonna say waste management. So we'll just say ABC company. Would come, they that deliver them. I know that the park district uses them. These dumpsters for trees and as they do throughout the summer, picking up the branches and whatnot. So I would assume it'd be an organization like that. We don't have the equipment to remove dumpsters, I assume. Director should.
Correct. Yeah, we do.
We do.
We do.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, can I ask this question? So the language that is in this proposed provision, did it come from a different city's code?
No, it did not. And the reason that it's just here is just to discuss, because I know it would bring more discussion of things that we want to see throughout the city. As far as, this is going, we've got the landscaping going on, so, camper pads. Dumpsters or storage containers, there may be a whole gamut of things, and rather than providing you with a draft summary of
Yeah.
this, to allow for conversation, so we have this all encompassing rather than doing something today and then another in a month and another in a month. So it would be at this point a discussion working document before it goes or legalizing.
Okay, and yeah,
You.
and so. And I don't know if you were CC'd on the email, but I think yesterday or this morning, I received an email about a question. Not involving a dumpster, but a storage container that somebody wants to have. And I haven't had a chance to overview that, to figure out whether or not we have ordinance or law on that. It makes sense to me that something the council would consider is that if the council doesn't have provisions on dumpsters and some of the storage containers, that we would look at that. And then within this ordinance, the questions that I have is just we need to find a way to define commercial grade dumpster, right? Somehow, and then I want to also look at the special assessment process just to determine whether or not we want to make an assessment of where the council's better off making a contraction with, financial flexibility, having taken multiple tickets, maybe that might be a better way to get incentivized, but I'll let you guys, kind of like what we did with procurement code, which I thought was a real good way of kind of the council coming to a conclusion as to what you wanted, and Gavin and I can paper it over.
If I may have a couple of things. My understanding with the way this is written, if somebody gets this commercial grade dumpster, they actually wouldn't need a permit for the first 30 days, assuming they're active.
No, actually, in your packet, there is a rough draft of or a template of a permit. So in this dumpster placement permit application, it has who it is, where it's going to be, the purpose for it. So they would need it before coming in, because it on the bottom, it has first city use, where it was approved, where it was issued, the expiration date. That way there's a track.
So the reason I say that is because the way that the ordinance is written, it says it shall not remain on the paid property for a period of exceeding 30 days unless a valid permit has been obtained.
Yep, and this permit says it's valid for 30 days.
Yeah, but the way the ordinance is written, they want.
Oh, this was just
Still.
started.
Yeah, what would be good?
Well, we can do is,
See
yeah.
exactly what you're looking
Okay.
at. Yeah, we would have to clarify.
Very-
also
very
permits.
very-
Before that server, but. The other thing is, if a resident forms a contract with a company, say in waste management, Armstrong sanitation, whatever it may be. Would this legal have any legal right to contact that company to remove a dumpster that contracted with someone else?
And that's where they come in. This is not to lay that all down, more what are some of the things we want to incorporate while we're in the discussion? Because I have no idea. I just know that the one in particular, it's been more than a year.
Sure.
2 years, 3 years, so we already addressed the storage container that had been, or I don't even remember how long it was, for an extended period of time. So this is more of a long-term issue rather than somebody that's actively doing work. If it's just how it gets taken care of, the enforcement part of it, that has to be something that we look at.
Mayor and council, I like the idea too, with knowing if they are contracted with a company and have that access to one. And not a permit, because it is still basically a permit, just a contract. Make sense?
So are there any other items that you've seen around town that bring question that we should be taking a look at? There, we have a 45-day moratorium on actions, for rocks, the landscaping rocks. We also have, somebody that just put crushed asphalt in, knowing that it's not allowed. So we need to decide, or at least have the discussion. Are we going to be enforcing our ordinances? What are the actions that we're going to take? Do you want to amend and allow some of this?
I guess as far as like the commercial grade dumpster, or are you talking about?
For all, this is just so we're not doing one ordinance, then another month we do another thing because we see something. Just kind of get ahead of it to where, maybe we can knock out 4 or 5 things at once rather than piecing it together later.
I guess I think as far as like the rocks, crushed asphalt, something along the boulevards. I think it'd probably be good to have some more conversation with the public works department to find out if there's some kind of middle ground with that, or if the steps that the ones that was previously been completely banning those and only having concrete or grass in the boulevards might have been a bit extreme. To see if there's any kind of middle ground that we can come to, I think would be a good start. I know we have a little bit more ground, bad days, etc. So that'll have to be decided within the next meeting or two.
Right.
I can have some conversations with Director Shute and see if we can come up with any more ideas for possibly changing the ordinance, or if we need to keep it as is. As far as that topic goes.
And not specific just to the rocks. Are there other things that you see in the city that you would like to have addressed? Because like I said, we have crushed asphalt. Now we're supposed to have cement pads for campers. But you have a lot of people that have rocks. And when you're driving that, well, I'll let the director shoot. If you want to, I guess, since we talked a little bit about.
Yeah, so my opinion on it is, I don't think we should allow any kind of a rock for the parking pads in the city right away. And it's just because it gets drug out on the road. If you're driving through it, it's pulled out on the road, it doesn't matter if you put glue down, the glue ain't working on it if you're driving on it. Landscaping purposes, I think that's fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that if you were to keep it to a minimum, if we have some kind of regulation on how wide it can be. Otherwise, what's the point? They could just say, oh, this is all landscaping rock, still hole in front of my parking pad. So you gotta have a regulation on how wide it can be. And then I was discussing it with some of the guys in the back, and I kind of come to an agreement that anything smaller than 4 inches wouldn't be allowed for any kind of landscaping in the city right away. It'd have to be 4 inches or bigger with a border around it. Because if it is that big, there's less of a chance of it getting washed down the drain if one happens to come out and going into the storm drains. Anything smaller than that can get washed down and gone, and then it's plugged up, and we have to work on getting them cleaned out and water flowing again. And another thing, I know I'm going to be the most hated person in the city of Lincoln, but I feel that we should start making people tear out the rock that is in the boulevard right now, grandfathered in or not, I don't care. Because right now our main problem is
Everybody is doing it because, well, that guy has it, that guy has it, that guy has it, and that guy has it. Well, how can you regulate this and tell me no if all these people have it? That is the biggest thing. So we have to drive around town and memorize who has rock, who doesn't have rock, and then try to catch them in the act of doing it, or if they've done anything over the weekend when nobody's there. So alleviate all that, everyone tears it out of the boulevard. No exceptions, it's out. Doesn't matter. You either have concrete or you have grass there. No pavers, no nothing like that, concrete or grass. And it's there for a reason. You want to do landscaping and have a nice one, you can do 4 feet wide. That's a nice, wide enough area to do something nice along your driveway, walkway, whatever you want to do. I just think our main big issue is right now is everybody sees it and then everybody thinks that they can do it also. And that needs to go away. Because if these people have it and they were grandfathered in, the next person will just do it because he sees it all over town. So it just needs to be gone. Plain simple.
And one of the things that I saw that I had actually asked the director about, I drove just well on my way around. Anyhow, there was a pickup attached to the camper fixing to roll off of it. Now that may seem okay, we're just looking at the pea-sized gravels or whatever, but you also have to realize then that camper, the vehicle, weighted down with all this stuff is coming off of the curb that the city is responsible for fixing.
It actually is an ordinance that you cannot drive off of the curb with equipment.
Right. So.
But who's gonna maintain it because you have to catch them in the act.
Right. So, there's that concern too. And it is, when I first moved out here and we got our camper pad put down, we were told, because you check into it before you do something, is this allowed? And we were told, no, you can't put rock.
So you can't extend the driveway either, can you extend that?
So we had to put concrete down. So, it's part of home ownership, and I agree. I mean, we're gonna have some people that are gonna be frustrated. But you also have the people that are told before they do it that this isn't allowed, and do it anyways, because what are you gonna do?
I just have that actually.
Did you?
Yep. The guy with the crushed asphalt, I caught him before he even laid it down. And the guy said, well, how can you enforce that to me when these 3 people have it on this same block? I'm just gonna do it anyways. And how are you gonna regulate it? What are you gonna do about it? I went back the next day and it was all completed. So that is why I say all of it gone.
Director, council mayor, what are the regulations for driveway? Like cause you can't extend to that third, right? Or can you?
Our driveways are a maximum of 36 feet wide. And then down at the curb, or high back to high back, they consider that where the driveway goes up to the top of the curb, that's 42 feet wide. So you have your flares and all of that. And then you're allowed to add on an extra 15 feet of filling the curb or the boulevard, I mean, without cutting out the curb.
Right.
With concrete, you can add that onto your driveway.
Right, yeah, but you can't cut into that curb and extend that
Right.
curb right out.
Yeah, so you can cut the curb if your driveway's smaller than 42 feet high back to high back. You can cut the curb out to extend it to 42.
Right.
If anything past that, the curb has to stay and you have to put the concrete over top of it like that. So,
Can those regulations change or do they strictly have to stay like that because of building issues?
well, if they
That
change,
might
then
be,
it would be, no place to put snow. You would basically hold your gate shut until the end of the block and then you dump it wherever you could. Because the driveways are so wide now that if they,
But yeah, I know what you mean.
if you extend the driveways, we have nowhere to put the snow.
Well, I mean,
If
just
we
your
gave-
property line, you know what I mean? And I'm sure most does. goes strictly blah, goes directly next to the neighbors. So then it's their front yard, so then you have that space. But I know what you mean, yeah, it still cuts off space for snow.
I mean, if we weren't gonna gate driveways, I don't make the whole thing the driveway. I don't care. I'll.
I was
push it all up
wondering
there, it
if
doesn't
that-
matter, but if we're gonna gate driveways, then we gotta have a place to put it to open the gates, so.
Right,
That's my opinion on that, whether there's some other rule or regulation on that, I have no idea. That would be for the smarter people than me, so.
I guess that's you, Greg. So
So,
if you want to.
Council members, from a building regulation standpoint, there is it's more, set up for, the snow maintenance type items. It does have a bit of an impact on stormwater increases, if they allow more and more concrete to, continue to go in, so, there potentially be a need for changes down the road, so. It's kind of, I think, been a spot of trying to pick a point that works for most people. And generally that 15 feet of additional concrete, is more than sufficient in most cases.
Attorney, do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, I think that the issue of a non-conforming use and grandfathering is something the city has to be mindful of, right? And there might be strategies that the city can employ. I don't know if with a rock camper pad, if that's something that over time needs to be maintained, right? If you have to add more rock, so the city certainly could set up, I shouldn't say certain, city could look at whether or not you could ultimately eliminate rock from those properties that have, so some properties might have a right, some might not, it might be a liability. So we start off with that, depending on the ordinance will be in place, what people have before that. The people that are in violation, and I think the city can enforce that ordinance, for the people that may be allowed a grandfathering non-conforming use because they really compliance before the law change. City didn't want to force that issue. One way to do it would be that you can't, at some point you can't add more law. Or at some point you have to remove it, like give it some window of time, given that it has a useful life, because that's how it works for most other buildings, right? As long as you're not reconstructing something, you can keep it the way it is. But once, like the deck in your backyard, right? Once you remove the old deck and you want to put a new deck, the new deck has to comply with it. So there might be some strategies that the city can employ. I think the analysis would be, does the law allow the city to just simply say no rock? If you have rock, you have to remove it. So that's the first question, whether we can just eliminate non-conforming uses. There are some constitutional issues with that. But so it's a big difference. It's one of the things on the agenda has to do with potentially changing liquor licenses. Well, that's a much bigger issue, commercial interest when it comes to non-conforming use and grandfathering than what this might be, right? So you have to look at what interest is being affected to determine what the city's power is. So that's the first question is, can you just eliminate all of it? And the second question is, if you can't eliminate all of it, can you put something in place that would require those people who are grandfathered to have to come and make application and have a permit, so you have documentation of who's been grandfathered and who hasn't, right? Which is one of your concerns, right? There might be a strategy that way, right? So there, I think, are ways that we can eliminate the expansion of this issue and then try to shrink it over time. If it's something that the council is interested in pursuing.
and I'm not asking for all the rock to be taken out, just whatever's in the boulevard, like whatever's in the city right away. What they have in their yard, I don't care if they cemented, concrete, asphalt, rock, whatever they want to put up there, I don't much care. It's just within the city right away is all I'm talking about, removing rock.
Yeah, and that might make a big difference too in the right of way, because the city has a property interest or a control interest in that right of way. I'm not giving a clear answer. The reason I'm not giving a clear answer is that there isn't always a clear answer for this. Sometimes it's a balancing of interests, but if it's something that's important to the council, we can put together a strategy to, so like I said, to keep it from expanding, and we can enforce it. Tell us it's important, we will enforce it. We have, say, there's plenty of authority to do that. And then to try to shrink it and be able to time, that would be good.
Refresh my memory, how far is the city right away for these?
It all depends, it all depends on the size of the road. So each road's different for the size of it. Most of them are the same. It's roughly around 13 on most
From the curb.
from the curve. And they're like Santee's a wider road, so I think it's like 17 feet setback on that one. So and there's I have to see once, but it's basically all depends on the size of the road, the width of the road. So
Well, what do we think about this? You know, this again was meant to not have any action tonight, just to start the discussion on some of the concerns that might be around. And if we can take a look at this and, you know, come together and share our views with the exception of what just happened yesterday. I would love to see some action on that, depending on whatever council chooses.
Can there, yeah, if you haven't worried about it.
We don't have a moratorium on it. Is the moratorium was on the finding for this individual or for the rocks, not for putting crushed asphalt as a second or as a pad. I guess I'm not exactly sure exactly
yeah,
what that is. So I don't think the moratorium says, okay, for 45 days, go do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That would be my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, the moratorium doesn't change the ordinances of the code. It just basically gives the city some runway to determine how it wants to handle these issues on a, you know, comprehensive way. But somebody who's acting, sounds like in bad faith, where they've been put on notice that what they're doing is a violation of the city's ordinances, and they do it anyway. I mean, the city's not powerless to take action.
Is there documentation of your
Yes.
discussions with them?
yeah, we went and took pictures of it before it was completed, and we took pictures of it after it was completed. So
That's what the legal. So is that a council?
Why don't, the director, why don't you send me the information and
we have a beautification form out already for him. I know I sent it up to the administrator, and I believe she's sending it off to him or whatever. So doing the whole beautification form, the whatever days to remove it and everything, and then we follow up. And if they haven't, then we'll probably send it to you.
then we'll look at what the options. And if it's all right with the council, I think that I'd like to have Gavin just take a look at this, but because of the issue with the right of way, I think might change the analysis a little bit, and I think it would be helpful to just have a little overview of what your authority might be, where the guardrails might be, what we can and can't do. So when you take a look at that and come with a short memo on how this would apply, that's been a lot, and how it applies to this issue with the right, which I think is different than some of the other issues.
Okay, and then we'll give an update as soon as the administrator has information. All right, so then if y'all will take a look at this, spend some time thinking about it. Thank you. So next, we have, liquor ordinance draft. I don't know if you want to do.
Well, Madam Mayor, I did take a look at this, and I don't, I mean, it doesn't raise any legal red flags. It's, again, the question becomes, those establishments that have a more unrestricted ability to sell alcohol today, what do you do with them if you now create a different class, right? So do you have to? So there's a couple issues. One is they have a license, so if you pass an ordinance and it becomes effective, taking away that license, as there's real concern about that from the property due process standpoint. And then do you have to renew the license? Because I believe these are yearly, is that right? Yeah, you have to renew the license, that creates an issue. The city's ordinances has a non-conforming use statute. If you recall, we, as part of the Ridge Edition and the developers agreement, the council made some changes to that non-conforming use ordinance. But that ordinance is more substantive as to zoning changes, right? In that instance, it had to do with a gravel track or something, if I remember correctly, right? And how the ordinance is set up is that if the zoning changes, you're allowed to continue that use as long as your use is continuous, right? And that was the interplay that they wanted to change. It's not clear to me that non-conforming use or this concern for zoning changes would apply here because this isn't a zoning change, it's a liquor control change. But there are constitutional issues because it's a licensed activity. So if this is something that the council wants to do, the council's going to have to make a decision about whether it's a forward-looking change so that new establishments will have to meet this and the old ones will continue. Or if it's something that the council wants to look at applying to eventually get compliance, and again, we'd have to look at that specific legal issue as it's different from what we were just talking about because of the commercial nature of this behavior and the fact that your city's licensed.
And the reason I brought this forward is just to have another class for the alcohol sales. I was approached about this specific to gas stations selling hard alcohol and wine, not the beer, picking it up as you're going out camping. It's just tightening up those heavier alcohols at a gas station. So this would not, if council decides to go this way and depending on where, that business would apply and hold a license to sell beer only at gas stations. If fueling is the main purpose for that entity or for the main sale. So, I could go.
I mean, why would we do that?
What was said to me was that the likelihood of underage drinking, maybe with the flow of traffic, the staffing shortages, whatever, they might not look as closely to those IDs. I had reached out to the police department, however, and asked if there have been findings of people underage going in, and there was nothing reported. So I'll just let you know that now, where our police or our businesses are right on. with what they're supposed to be doing, but it's just, the risk of, because of the traffic, and then allowing, the harder alcohol sales is basically what it was. Not to minimize what a beer is gonna do to somebody versus, you know, a vodka or something, but, just the thought that it would be less harmful. I don't want to say bad, but
I guess in my mind, as far as I'm aware, wherever beer is stored, in these establishments, it's still only 21 old in those areas. If somebody is going to sneak in there and take alcohol, regardless if it's beer, wine, hard liquor, they can still get just as blackout drunk on beer as anything else, so. In my opinion, it's already illegal for them to obtain this. I don't see that there's a need to restrict the businesses from being able to provide this for other patrons.
I would agree with your statement on that one, Councilman Bjornsted, Mayor and Council. We do have an elementary school in our town, and right across the street, they can see signs, advertisement for that, and it's at a lot of events that our children are at, sadly, sporting events. So I mean, it's everywhere already. And again, just to agree with you, restricting on a business, it's just another thing to kind of stop some businesses from coming into us, but it's just a lot to think about on this one, that's for sure. But I do agree with your stance. Rest it.
And don't get me wrong, I understand, you know, you want to protect children, to make sure that they aren't doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
and just to clarify, I don't think he was concerned about the 10-year-olds that are walking home from school. I think even more so
Young
the 20-year-olds that are going to the grocery store and passing off as 21, 22-year-olds.
Okay.
Because staff is busy, or there's 10 people behind, or whatever the case.
Well, I mean, in that
Right.
case, still are technically required to IDs.
I'm just bringing what was asked of me, so. And regardless of whether, you know, council decides to do this, I think at some point the city will have to take a look at the number of permits that are given for a town of 5,000 people, not even 5,000, to have, you know, 6 places for you to get off sale.
I was gonna ask,
Depending.
have a limit on
No.
permits? Okay.
No. So, just my thought process, because we do want to encourage places or people to come in, which I think is why we voted to, you know, approve another license last year. So,
And Mayor, how many licenses do we have for liquor sales for the town of Lincoln?
we're gonna do about 6.
6. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, conversations?
I like the idea of grandfathering those that already have it, but not restricting on the meetings. Or the regulations. There's revenues you're selling fuel. Then just have that. Stop there long time. It's fine. Whenever I go to a new town, every gas station in town, Pat, like. This is town. Kind of separate that. Away from other things like schools, church.
And one of the things next meeting is when our liquor licenses come up for renewal. So when they do come up, where it's either approve them or approve them with um, exception to the alcohol, just for the beers. Or, I guess council can at some point, either today, tomorrow, next year, look at limiting the number of each of the specific,
Yeah, limit number.
the classes.
Every priority thing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, it sounds to me like it would be cleaner. From a few different standpoints, just to limit the amount, maybe look at a percentage, in accordance with the population. As it relates to other cities and, and just look at the limitation of the amount of licenses versus the messy business of getting into grandfathering and the constitutionality and all of that stuff.
so if we, come back at the next council, cause I would like to think that we give notice of any changes. Because we can grandfather, do whatever, come back with ideas of how many we think. I don't know, I've not looked at what percentage of population or.
I'm not sure what the standard is for that, but you can do some research.
All right, so we will continue that discussion at the next meeting. Now, number 17, Digital Board, Councilman Shoemaker.
Well, Freddie Bariga. Sorry, I was off on the time, so thank you for waiting patiently. Would you mind coming up and doing a discussion on kind of digital readout and board options and educate us a little bit on those units?
Well, my name is Freddie Borrego. I work with Indigo Sons. I'm here with Indigo Park. One of the main questions I get from people looking to get an electronic message center or an EMC is what's the cost? So kind of want to address that first. Basically, I want to ask you guys a question. What does a car cost?
Thousands.
It can range.
Thank you. It's a big range, depends on a lot of stuff. Is it a sedan, is it a SUV, or front wheel drive, 4-wheel drive? What brand is it, what model? There's a lot of different options. So with the EMCs, kind of also falls under that same category. Size. Is it single sided, double sided? Where are you gonna put it? How high is it gonna be up? What type of resolution? So, excuse me, we work with 3 different brands of EMCs: Watchfire, Daktronics, and Cirrus. Watchfire and Daktronics, I kind of compare them as a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. Very good quality, very expensive. The likes of Lamborghini, everybody kind of likes to like breathe Lamborghini, but what do you need it? Maybe, what are you gonna use it for? Cirrus is a little bit more economic, but also a very good quality product. I compare one with a Cadillac, is also, they are 95% produced and assembled here in the US. So with the events that have happened recently with the tariffs and all of that, Watchfire and Daktronics did have to raise their prices a little bit. Cirrus did not. They maintained the prices. So they are already a little bit more economical. Still a very good quality product. Daktronics and Watchfire are, yes, they are better, but they're also more expensive. All 3 of them have a 5-year warranty. All 3 of them have the capacity to have a cellular connection, so you can access the sign to make updates, changes, whatever, from pretty much anywhere in the world. They have a very secure website. You need a username and password to access. You can assign different levels of different types of users, so one person can make minor changes, and maybe have someone that can change anything. Depending on where you want it installed, I know, Vanessa kind of mentioned possibly over here on the roundabout. We need to look at what kind of information you want to put on it, who's going to be seeing it, and what visibility is going to be accessible there. I was kind of looking on the corner where you have right now the Welcome to Lincoln sign. There's 2 pine trees there, which if we put it in that corner would block a lot of the visibility. So we would to see if maybe a different corner or moving it more
That way.
west might be an option. We could do a double-sided sign to cover both the east and west moving traffic. Could do a 3-sided sign, get a little bit more exposure, or possibly even a 4-sided. But again, that kind of also increases the prices of which one advertise or display on that sign. They still make the monochrome red text signs, but everyone's kind of moving away from the price difference between that and a full color sign right now is minimal. With technology and everything right now, pretty much everyone's going just to full color. There's different resolutions within the signs. How they categorize it is the millimeters, the distance between each LED. So the higher the number, the more distance, less resolution, the lower the number, less distance, better resolution. But better resolution isn't always better. So when you're putting up a sign at 20 feet in the air, something like what would be done here, so you can get enough visibility. And a 15 millimeter or 12 millimeter, which is the lower resolution, would be more than sufficient, because at a distance with moving cars and everything, you actually get better readability out of the sign. Unless you're putting up high resolution pictures of landscape or people or something that really needs that resolution, you're gonna invest the money, but you're not gonna need it. Not sure what else we can. I mean, I can go on for a while, but I don't know if there's any questions so far.
Well, so we've been discussing about getting a sign to advertise to public and the first thing in my mind is, do we have it in the budget? And so depending on what type of sign we get, you mentioned the location, whether it's mounted on the ground or mounted on the wall, 2-sided, 1-sided, 2-sided, 3-sided resolution. There's a lot of different variables. So for example, what if we have a pole mounted 2-sided sign with leave resolution out of it, about ballpark, what would that cost?
Roughly, and kind of what I would recommend for this location, 1 pole, double-sided, 5 foot high by 10 foot wide, with about a 12 or 13 millimeter resolution, which is on the lower end. You're looking with the sign and installation between 70 and 90,000.
Do I have any more questions? Or usual signs or something like that?
Would you have any examples in your area? That would be great to see. Like that other businesses or something that have had you set up.
We just recently did up in Newtown for their greenhouse. They put up a big 10 by 20 double-sided message center. And that one we actually installed, finished installing it about 2-3 weeks ago. We are Watford City, First Lutheran Church. We did a sign for them, but that one was a complete full monument sign with an EMC in it. Have pictures of it on my phone, but Yeah, nearby, not off the top of my head. We handle all of North Dakota, Minnesota, west side of Wisconsin, north side of South Dakota, east side of Montana. I cover pretty much from Steel west and from Minot south, all of North Dakota. I have a big area, but mostly for the EMCs that I have done it, and mostly outside of this mine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Appreciate you taking time to come speak to us.
Any other questions, right?
No, he's not at this time.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, right, and I apologize, had I known you were here to visit with us, I would have maybe amended the agenda and moved you up a little bit. So, thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, and now Attorney Rocker. Engineer report. Goodness, it's.
I'm engineer, I can't do math. I'll just give you the two or three things that are highest on our list. One is the engineering contract. Yeah, we may have something to do next meeting. Gavin Mint has provided to me draft of the tree board changes, so that I tell you will be available for the next meeting. We are still trying to track down the solution with the water leak issue and getting meetings scheduled with the mayor and members of the city to work on that. And then I did catch up this week on the capital electric maintenance agreement. Mayor prompted me to figure out what people are on that, but I know that there's some back and forth with engineering and the public works, but I looked at it from a legal standpoint as far as they provided us draft agreement. I marked it up and sent it back, and I don't have any concerns with me for that agreement. So as soon as the logistics are worked out on the operational side, I think that would be ready to go as well. So yeah, those are the non-admissible.
Thank you. Questions for the attorney? Thank you. And now we have Mr. Besson with the attorney report.
I'm not even insulted him.
I'll keep my legal opinion to myself. So, engineering report for the past month, we've had the standard meetings for council, NPO, and planning and zoning. Development applications, we had Lions Edition replat, and that has now been changed to a lot modification, so that simplifies process, kind of allows us to do a little bit faster with things. No sketch plats, preliminary plat. This section for Ridge Third Edition and Turkey Meadows. Final plat, Ridge Edition and Ridge Second Edition, which we heard here this evening. Residential development applications. Sorry, did not have the street name on it, but 7016, I believe that was over around the east side of town. I think of the street name, I will bring it back up. I think it was Butler Circle, if I recall correctly. But accessory buildings, there's a couple in progress right now. We got some of the information, some additional, and then special use permit request, Lincoln Auto Repair, and that's just kind of, it's in process, and that kind of tied to Turkey Meadows, and that's and planning and zoning would have to go through board of adjustment. So that'll be a follow-up conversation that I'll have with Attorney Rock.
next, few days probably. Projects in process, street joint repairs, the massive project. I believe most of you have probably seen, kind of the work going on around town here this past week. Bargain Incorporated, they got started on Tuesday, they're making, pretty good progress on the northwest side, and I can with Terry here today that to actually kind of completed most of the area on the northwest side, and then going to be jumping down on the south side of Lincoln, getting some of the bigger concerns on some of the streets and working through that. And they brought in a couple of crews, so they're moving through things a lot quicker than they originally anticipated. So they're probably, instead of even being at 2 weeks, which we were kind of estimating beginning of this week, it's probably a little bit less than that. So but they're moving through pretty good. The work that they're doing, from what I've seen, does look very, it's turning out well. It's really eliminating a lot of those dips, and that should hold up over time. And well, so I think it's a good solution for a lot of those issues. But generally speaking, a lot of the streets overall are in good shape. It's just those joint issues that have kind of problems. Does anyone have any questions on that project or?
That you and or Director Sheet is kind of making sure that everything within that plan is what's getting executed.
Yes, between both of us and mostly Director Sheet, he's kind of directing them to certain areas and making sure things are getting, then completed properly in that, and using the material that the city is able to purchase this winter. So once they use that, then they're done. So.
I don't know if you, excuse me, have gone down 28. I think that was the first street that was done, and gosh, I didn't bounce around at all. It was just so nice and smooth and everything's. That was, yeah. So if you don't know what that mastiff is, go on 28 or nothing.
And then the sanitary sewer regionalization project, that's been kind of talked a little bit about by Loretta here earlier. No new information on the BRIC program, whether it's getting restated or anything. That's just kind of canceled at this point. So any other questions on?
This thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And on to portfolios, we'll start with Councilwoman Davis.
For the office, the utility billing is now collected $19,745.86, but that is still only half of what is overdue. Some of those accounts are now past 60 days, so legal options are ahead. Office work, routed calls, stored hard copies, assisted in PD with animal control flyer, assisted public works and road repair flyers, shared local updates on the farmers market, and then rummage sales events on social media. EDC assisted in taking the meeting minutes for June 2nd, tasked with generating documents for new residents and local business info. And then we also had permits, processed 39 food permits, and I would assume that's for the garage sale weekend.
And the farmer's market.
And farmer's market. So 39 food permits out in Lincoln. Take a look around. Might find some good gems. All applicants who stopped in were helped within 15 minutes and all applications were accepted. That's all I know. Permits, sorry. My bad.
I think it was really great today. I got to listen in on something, rummage sale bingo. What a great idea. You have your list and right, mark off different things. Thank you, Ashley. What an awesome idea.
Welcome, Mayor.
Councilwoman Artovia.
Chief Dyer, would you like to, read the update for the Bismarck?
I can.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'll start out the annual call summary. Year to date, we've had 333 calls for service, through the end of May, and 47 of those calls have been to the city of Lincoln. A monthly run summary for the month of May, were 10 calls. And 5 of those 10 were for emergent responses. They break down as 6 rescue EMS, 2 hazardous condition, no fire, 1 good intent, 1 false alarm, false call. And this month, the average response time for emergent responses, which is lights and sirens, was 7 minutes, 21 seconds. May 18th, our probationary firefighters tested for firefighter 1. 3 of the 6 passed both the written and practical portion, and will receive their certification. The other 3 just need to retake the written test and will receive their certification and anticipate them getting that completed within the next month. 3 of our probationary firefighters were promoted to regular status part-time firefighters, having completed all requirements of their probation. They were given their helmet, shields, and badges at our award ceremony this past Tuesday evening. The department continues to work on staffing for our North Station as much as possible and looking at ways to keep the station staffed by incorporating part-time firefighters into the mix as possibilities for coverage. Although we took possession of the inside of our new fire station, work continues on the outside on Monday this week. The last parts of our old fire station were removed and tore down. The next step will be to finish the parking lot and complete all landscaping around the fire station adjacent grounds that were disturbed during construction. And we also finally got the word that our new fire engine has started to be built, and we received our first pictures of that. They're still anticipating to hopefully have that completed sometime late summer or early fall. May we completed RIT training at the Bismarck Fire Tower. This allows firefighters the opportunity to practice skills when things go wrong in the fire ground by practicing rescue scenarios on downed firefighters and self-rescue scenarios out of windows. For the month of June, next week we plan on completing some annual pump training, which is a vital part of firefighter skills. Being proficient and keep firefighters safe on the fire ground and property loss of fires and reduce the property loss of fires extinguishers quickly and efficiently. Additional training, 2 of our firefighters attended an out-of-state training course in Casper, Wyoming, covering different topics in fire suppression and rescue. And that training had a combination of lectures and hands-on classes. PR events, May 9th, we had the Aero Service team safety event. And then May 10th, we attended the core real estate party planning and zoning. I was not able to attend due to the conflict, and then there's fire prevention. Please just make sure that having outdoor fires and please make sure that when having outdoor fires and fire pits, make sure that they are away from structures and extinguish them all the way when finished.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then, keep getting reports that he is in the process of budget planning for the department for the 2026 fiscal year. Officer Kingston and Schneider have been nominated to represent the community efforts in combating impaired drivers. If selected, they will be honored at the July 31st DUI Enforcement All-Star Night with the Bismarck Clarks at their baseball game. Officer Edwards started the North Dakota Law Enforcement Training Academy. They are still exploring opportunities to host microchipping and pet licensing event in the city. They are happy to announce the hiring of Officer Corey Mahoney. Officer Mahoney started on May 21st, and he comes from a family of law enforcement officers. His dad is a sergeant with Burleigh County Sheriff's Office. Brother is an officer with Bismarck PD, and he is also a Lincoln native, so he's very excited to serve in his town community.
Okay,
That's all I have.
Right, Councilman Bjorkstead.
Public Works Department, worked on jetting the storm drain on Carlin. They mowed around the lagoons and ditches along 66 and Lincoln Road. Trimmed trees along 66 and Lincoln Road and all out trees. Those go out to the plant, correct?
Yeah, they get all the bids, Mark.
And as the engineer has stated, they've been helping out with the mass tape that have been put down. Our side is pretty much completed. So they are definitely moving along very quickly. I think appreciate that. Just for a little clarification with the street signs that were put out about no parking on the streets. The engineer or the contractor did say that like once they moved on from that street, that people are okay to park on the streets. Okay. So, if you do see them working in your area, please make sure they have your vehicles, campers, boats off the street. Make the process much smoother and they can do a better job and keep that mess down and move on to the next one. So that happened.
But that should work. So when they ordered the mastic. Did we order enough, everything? Measured out well?
We basically ordered, it was a load and a half, if I'm not mistaken, like the other load and a half. We were able to get a discounted price and we wanted to get enough to complete north side of town where the roads are still in decent shape, but have some cracks, so basically some prevented from getting worse shape. And then to touch up areas on the south side of town where possible, with the plans that some of those streets we know are gonna need paving. So okay, great, speaks on that.
Yeah, so when we ordered it, one of the representatives from the company came out and he drove the whole town. He basically counts the cracks and how many there is, and he's been doing it so long that he kind of gets a good estimation of how much it's gonna take for each spot, so that's why he told us if we wanted to do the north side, it would be a full truckload. If we wanted to include some of the south side, it'd be a truckload and a half. So that's why we ordered a truckload and a half to get the north side done to make sure it doesn't end up like some of the roads on the south side. And then we're kind of patching up the south side roads to make them so they're not so bad. Because they're still a good road, it's just the cracks have gotten bigger and bigger and it's starting to wash out the crack area, which is causing it to sag again. So, and I just want to say too that Allen Drive is not completed yet. They are going to complete it tomorrow, so everybody can not continue to not park on the road there. That would be great. So, and then after Allen, they're going to Weir and doing Weir, and then they're going to McDougal by the baseball diamond. And going to be doing that road. And then going up to Custer and doing from Stanley to Belk, I believe it is. So they're gonna do that stretch in there, and then if there's any left, they're gonna go back over to Humbert and do a little bit more on Humbert. So that is the plan. Because him and I and Greg, we kind of all decided that certain streets on the south side were way worse than other streets. So we have talked about this isn't just a 1 year deal. It will probably have to be getting done again next year. So just to catch us up on what we have. So just food for thought on that one.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And Councilman Sheen.
Still haven't received any ideas for logos, any logos in my email, so please send those over. They can be comments too. Don't have to submit an actual logo, just say something like, just do whatever you do, don't put a star on Bismarck. So any comments or logos. I'd like to have those in so we can get something on paper and possibly vote on during future days. So feel free to do so. Also, don't forget June 25th, Carl Drew church will work on the violet sign on 52nd. So if you'd like to come on, I'm sure they would welcome it.
What was the date?
June 25th. And then the time is to be determined. Go ahead.
Right. I have two things. One, just as a reminder, portfolio updates. Will be July. So throughout the month of June, if we could, just do an update as to what is entailed within that, portfolio, and discussions will go on how we want to address them going forward. And then also, because of the cost of everything, time frame, you know, structure of that blue building, we've kind of had to gear off a little bit. And the attorney actually had mentioned, oh, portables are nice too. So I went actually and took a look at some portables as far as to provide a little more office space for either PD, City Hall, you know, something that would be a little less expensive, but would fit our needs. Less, knowing that ultimately, you know, we would be looking for a more permanent location, you know, for the City Hall, whatever. And then our auditor had sent over a link, Minot has a couple school classroom portables that are for sale. There's also an organization of a business in Bismarck that sells. You can rent them, buy them, depending on your needs, long-term, short-term. So if council is amenable to it, maybe we can take a look at what it would cost. I do know that recently there was a sale of one. They were looking at about $100,000, but I do know that in some of the bidding situations that might be significantly less. And if we have security and plumbing, electricity, HVAC, all of that, we might be able to get by with something really nice for our employees. So.
Open having that information gathered, find out what kind of cost there would be, location for replacing.
Anybody want to take that on? Or to, if we. I can share that.
Where to start? Yeah, I can start getting some information.
Okay, I can give you the names.
Okay.
All right. And auditors report.
I really don't have anything right now, other than this, I'm within the office, but, I am working on April statement. Hopefully I'll have that done by the next council meeting. And then, the CDs that you guys renew, I talked to her and, they gave us an extra 10 basis points, so instead of 14, and just helping you guys there.
Wonderful.
That's all I have.
Thank you. And I think it's wonderful. Sometimes all you have to do is ask. And you get more than what you ask for. Good job. And if there is nothing else at the table, it is 8:23. We are adjourned.
That's the way.